So welcome back guys to another video, and I thought this would be a really kind of fun video to discuss with you guys. I think I may have accidentally found one of my favorite controllers to use for emulation. Now, if you've been following my channel, you guys know I love emulation. Whether it's the convenience or the space or maybe even the expense of retro gaming, it's nice that we have alternatives that ultimately kind of preserve retro gaming, but at the same time, it's just a lot of fun. And my method of mayhem for emulation, of course, is this little guy, the Raspberry Pi. This is the Raspberry Pi 3. Now, what's really cool about the Raspberry Pi is how much customization you can do, rather it's themes and, in this part, controllers, because it's got 4 USB controllers. And just about any USB controller will work on the Raspberry Pi, just as long as you have enough buttons to do things like the hotkeys, like exiting the game, saving, save states, load states, what have you. But I had a Raspberry Pi Zero, which is a lower grade Raspberry Pi, and it came with an SNES USB controller, and these are kind of a standard for Pi kits. And unfortunately, this USB SNES controller just went out. It just quit working, and I was going through my cabinet of random cords and cables and controllers that I have, and I found this right here. This controller is for Pokken Tournament that was originally on the Wii U, which is now on the Nintendo Switch. This is a controller by Hori, exclusively made for this game. Now, what makes this controller really special for me is, first off, it has all the button inputs that you would expect to function on a Raspberry Pi. And in a lot of ways, this is kind of a modernized Super Nintendo controller. You have your 4 face buttons, you have your start and select. You also have 2 buttons that would act as the second triggers on the Wii U. And you also have these giant freaking shoulder buttons and a good amount of cord, about 6-foot cord. And I know some folks are asking, like, why don't you use like a Bluetooth controller when you use the Raspberry Pi? And I'll get into that because I do have 2 8-bit DOE controllers, and I love them. I got the NES Pro 30, the MG 30 Pro, and I love those controllers. But the problem that I've been having with the Raspberry Pi with Bluetooth is once the Bluetooth starts to run out of battery, I get a lot of input lag, a lot of latency issues. I do not have that at all with this controller. This controller is perfect for playing Super Nintendo, NES, Sega Genesis, Sega CD, arcade games. I don't use this controller, of course, for a lot of PlayStation stuff. I have a PS3 controller, third-party PS3 controller that I use for that. But yeah, this right here, the Pokken Tournament controller, is surprisingly an awesome controller. It's got an incredible D-pad because it was made with fighters in mind, so the D-pad's really good. The handles, I do have to say, because when you just look at it, it doesn't look that comfortable. But the handles themselves are actually handles like in an Xbox 360 controller. So it fits really well in my hands. Feels kind of big, but I don't mind that. The buttons just, I love it. This is my favorite controller for the Raspberry Pi. And I mean, these controllers are not that hard to come by. You can find them all over eBay and Amazon. But I will say, if you're a Pi enthusiast and looking for something a little different than your normal USB Super Nintendo controllers or Xbox 360 controller, PS3 controller, you want to have something with a little more personality, this controller here, the Pokken Tournament controller. But yeah, guys, that was something I wanted to share today. Talk about this unusual controller that I really enjoy. What are some unusual controllers that you enjoy playing video games with? Leave a comment below. I'd love to talk to you guys. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And as always, happy gaming.